If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. You are listening to the Jennifer Kesse series. This is episode 3, Chino. Our person of interest, who is one of the workers, and the strange circumstances surrounding Chino, the workers at the complex, as well as the management at the complex, and plenty more. I mean, there's no shortage of shadiness in this case. And this is Mindshock, where we do the most exhaustive, comprehensive deep dives and logical analyses, trying not to fall for any logical fallacies like all these other podcasts and documentaries. So we will continue further down the rabbit hole in the Jennifer Kesse case. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, find it interesting and informative, want to help support Mindshock, help us get more mind-shocking content out there, and keep up awareness in unsolved cold cases, missing persons cases, wrongful convictions, and more, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So we have a lot to go over. I mean, this is another one of these head-scratcher type cases where there are so many different rabbit holes. I mean, everything from the car situation, the security footage, whether or not the person of interest in the footage is even related into whatever happened to Jennifer Kesse. Because if the workers simply told some other worker that had nothing to do with Jennifer Kesse, might not even know who Jennifer Kesse is, if they just paid him some money to go park the car or something, no questions asked. Maybe they also deal drugs or involved in other criminal activities. So this is all par for the course. So this person of interest might have suspected, obviously, that there was something up, but they might have not been responsible for what actually happened to Jennifer Kesse if the workers were responsible. Now, there's some definitely unanswered questions regarding Chino. We're going to go over them again. I mean, I've touched upon them in the previous episodes. We just have so much to go over here. There's also, I mean, whenever something's out of the ordinary, I mean, that's something it's really hard to write off as definitely not being related whenever there's an anomaly or an inconsistency. So Jennifer Kesse's brother and his friends stayed at this apartment, at her apartment here. I mean, this is a weird point. The brother, or one of the brother's friends, left his phone. Jennifer Kesse supposedly is mailing the phone back. I mean, if he was involved in something. I mean, there's just so many unanswered questions, unresolved avenues of investigation. I mean, an ex-boyfriend. I mean, all these sightings. I mean, there's just so much here. I mean, this is why the Jennifer Kesse case continues to be one of the most requested on Mindshock, and we're covering so many different cases, and we have so many different series going. I mean, it's not always easy to release episodes in every single series in a timely fashion, but we do our best. So let's jump right in here. Let's just do another breakdown. This is from the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. New details about Jennifer Kesse from the Up and Vanished episode. By Powerful Divide, Jennifer Kesse, a 24-year-old finance manager, was abducted while leaving work on the morning of January 24th, 2006. Allegedly. We've gone over the timeline issues. There's actually no definitive proof on exactly when she was abducted. There's so many inconsistencies even in the timeline. Some believe it was the night before. Some believe it was anywhere in between the night and the morning of. Jennifer's case was recently profiled on the Oxygen series Up and Vanished. Some brand new details and information was revealed during the episode, and it wasn't just a rehash of old information. This is going to be a long post. Here's the recap. Happenings before Jennifer disappeared. As we all know, Jennifer was unhappy with the workers in her complex as they made her feel uncomfortable. A friend interviewed in the program stated that Jennifer did not like them doing maintenance in her condo and preferred them to do it when she was gone. A disturbing piece of information that I haven't read anywhere is that one of the reasons Jennifer was uncomfortable with the workers is because they would come to her apartment and do a half-assed job. Joyce Kesse, Jennifer's mother, stated the workers would periodically do paint touch-ups in one room instead of doing the complete condo as a means to come back. Now, that's kind of weird. If they just want to come back and harass her, that's one thing. But if she's not even there and they come back and do... that's kind of weird. Okay. 2 weeks before Jennifer's vacation to St. Croix, the workers returned to do more touch-up work while Jennifer was on the phone to her father. Drew advised Jennifer to give them a piece of Tupperware and have them put the paint in it so she could do it herself. Jennifer did that, and the workers argued with her, saying that you can't do that because it would ruin the paint. Well, what do they care? It's her apartment. The day Jennifer disappeared, former Orlando PD police detective Joel Wright was interviewed for the program. He stated he believes Jennifer woke up and got ready for work and likely made it down the stairs and probably made it to her car when she was abducted. He believes the abduction took place at approximately 7:30 a.m. Joel Wright stated he believes the abduction took place in the morning due to a tip he received on Thursday, the day Jennifer's car was found. The tip came from people who lived across the street from Jennifer's condo complex. They reported to him that they believed they saw Jennifer's car on Tuesday morning driving erratically out of the complex sometime after 7:30 a.m. Again, let's reiterate, her car, not her. And they believe it was her car, not 100% sure. When Jennifer's brother arrived at her condo complex, he saw the workers parked in a white van right next to where Jennifer's parking spot was. When Logan knocked on the window, they ignored him completely and did not respond to him at all. Logan was able to speak with a guy named Ben, who was the head of maintenance. He reported he was very rude and sketchy. Another thing, too, if they abducted her right then and there, would they continue, like, if she was in the van? That'd be really creepy if when Logan was knocking on the window, she was actually in the van. But if they really abducted her and she was in the van, like, why would they still be right next to her parking spot? That definitely points away from that theory. The investigation. When asked about the surveillance footage in the POI, former Detective Joel Wright stated that he had a source that used to be a housekeeper in the condo complex. This housekeeper has never seen a photo of the POI before. When shown the photograph of the POI, the housekeeper replied, "That looks like Chino." After receiving this information, Wright went back to his office and typed the word Chino into the tracking system and discovered that, sure enough, a tip had come in from the first week of the investigation from someone saying that a person known as Chino is involved in Jennifer's disappearance. All right, let's reiterate this. So, a housekeeper said that looks like Chino. Now, also, a separate source who called in a tip reported that a person known as Chino is involved in Jennifer's disappearance. Now, here's another thing, too, that we don't really talk about. We need to talk about this more. How many false tips are called in by true perpetrators as red herrings? Actually might have to do a podcast just on that. Because, that could very well be the case as well. Let's not fall for false dichotomies or any other logical fallacies. In order to find out who Chino... at the time of Jennifer's abduction, Chino was known to be living and working at Jennifer's condo complex. Chino wasn't interviewed until Joel considered him a suspect in 2008. Wow, so 2+ years later. In order to find out who Chino was, Joel returned to the complex and shown one of the remaining workers a photograph and asked which one was Chino. The worker was able to pick Chino out right away. And again, are these workers cooperating with police? What does that mean? Are several of the workers not? Because some people believe that this was kind of, this might have been a multiple-person operation. Because if multiple workers routinely hassled Jennifer Kesse, if it wasn't just one guy making rude comments or possibly a psychopathic serial killer, if they were these group-type antics, some believe a group, more than one individual, is responsible for whatever happened to Jennifer Kesse. The other thing that's kind of weird, why would they just randomly attack and kill her? Because, you know what I mean? Unless something got out of hand. If the teasing maybe possibly turned into some touching or something and she really resisted hard and things got crazy quick, maybe it was even an accident of some kind. But it does seem kind of weird that they would just randomly kidnap and kill her. Like, it's known she lives there. It's known they work there. Some of them are undocumented, whatever. So it does, I mean, there are certain circumstances where it seems like, why would they rather do this? Whereas if it's just one or two of the workers who are possibly psychopaths, the other workers might want to help with the investigation, as they seem to be helping this police officer. So these are all things to keep in mind. Although, again, we really can't forget that the police apparently did not have a Spanish translator on hand in Florida. And so none of these people were interviewed day after, in the immediate aftermath, which is obviously a huge mistake there. So this worker was able to pick Chino out right away. Wright discovered that Chino was known to be working with the head of maintenance, Ben, the worker that Logan had an argument with the morning Jennifer disappeared. All right, so now the plot thickens here, because if the maintenance guy, Ben, is truly the responsible party, perhaps Chino isn't responsible, but he knows things about Ben, maybe. And there's a lot of shady reporting happenings. If you haven't checked out the first two podcasts, make sure you check the first two episodes out. Apparently, people that lived in that complex reported that, like, someone was trying to enter their room in the middle of the night with the key, etc., etc. Not necessarily that it was Ben, but if the keys were just handed out to random workers. I mean, just a really shady complex and situation all around. Wright was able to speak with Ben and admitted that both he and Chino worked in Jennifer's condo the week before Jennifer went on her vacation. Now, why is he admitting this? If he's guilty with or without Chino, would he say that to explain away any possible fingerprints or DNA in the condo? On the other hand, if he's innocent, he might also lie about it because he doesn't want to be involved. Or if he's innocent and telling the truth. I mean, there's a lot of different situations for giving that answer, innocent or guilty. Joel Wright stated that Chino was once in prison for a sexual battery case involving a minor. Wright stated that the FBI gave Chino a polygraph and he passed with flying colors. Joel doesn't know where either of the men are right now. So Chino moved on. That's not surprising. Random worker. Ben moved on, like the head of maintenance moved on, and they can't track him. So what does everybody think of the new details? Photograph of Chino. Close-up of Chino. Okay. Some posts here. Holy smokes. Ignoring the witnesses recognizing the photo and identifying him, that explanation matches the facts we knew, not much. Connects the disappearance to the only real suspect population, the construction workers at her complex, and gives a possible motive, anger, revenge, punishment. That's a huge revelation. I mean, what does everybody think, though? Is this Chino guy really, does he match this individual, this POI, parking the vehicle? And is Ben involved in this situation? Another post here. I cannot believe that a legitimate police department would fail to follow up on an entire group of suspects, construction workers who previously harassed her and had access to her apartment, simply due to language issues. It's the main thing that jumps out at you when you review the evidence. Another post here. I live in Orlando. Anytime multiple units respond to a call, it is almost guaranteed one of them is bilingual. Hell, you can't throw a rock without hitting someone who speaks Spanish. It's just unbelievable to me that they had no resources for an interpreter. Here's another post. I mean, this is just mind-shocking. Not just the resources, but a Spanish-speaking officer or non-uniformed employee. Do they just give up on all cases involving Spanish-speaking victims, witnesses, and suspects? This makes so little sense, especially since the victim's brother observed a work vehicle next to her parking space and spoke with workers who made him feel uncomfortable. I mean, that is a good point. I mean, do they just shrug anytime there's Spanish-speaking individuals involved in a case in Orlando? I mean, this is just, you can't make, what do you make of that? You can't make anything of that. And even if they didn't have anybody there that day, like they can't send someone the next day. I mean, there's just, I don't know what to make of this. This is just so mind-shocking, just that one detail. Another post here. So over on the Jennifer Kesse sub, a lot of people seem to think it was an ex-boyfriend or co-worker. I have always thought it was one of the construction workers. My initial reaction when seeing the POI video was that it was a shorter Hispanic man wearing painters or construction clothes. With this new information, I am 95% convinced it was one or two workers together. Combined with Jennifer telling her family she was wary of the workers, this seems like the most likely conclusion. Another post here. Did you notice he has a bicycle clip on his right ankle over his trouser leg? Very cool and arrogant how he walked away after what he's done the last 3 hours. Completely lack of feeling and a real psychopath, that's for sure. He looks only about 21 years old, which makes it even more creepy. And again, if he really did pass that polygraph, he needs a brain fingerprint scan. I talk about this all the time. You can't fool the brain fingerprint scan, but if you're a psychopath or a sociopath, you might be able to fool the polygraph. Many people do. Another post. I'm of the camp that the killer laid in wait for Jennifer, snatched her, and did whatever he was going to do, came back and hired a worker to move her car for him. That way, the killer gets away from the scene as soon as possible while having someone else leave their DNA, skin prints, etc. all over the car, even though supposedly the car was wiped down. Okay, so let's examine this. So if it was either Ben or some rich guy, co-worker, or some other ex-boyfriend, whoever, are these construction workers, how much do these workers make, especially if they're undocumented? I mean, how much money do they make? If somebody slipped them $100, $200 to move a car, would they, how much to not ask questions about a potential crime involved? Someone else posted this, a polygraph is about as useful as a tarot card reading. Some would argue that the tarot card readings are more useful. A very, very astute post here. Certain drugs, legally or illegally obtained, are known to help fool a polygraph, particularly anti-anxiety sedatives such as benzodiazepines and opiates. Police rarely actually perform a drug test before a polygraph exam is given, but rather ask the subject if they're on any medication or drugs. This isn't uncommon knowledge. It also makes sense on what those drugs do to your physiological anxiety fear response. It's also fairly easy to take some benzos and not appear under the influence. There are many examples of this, but one that you can watch is on a crime documentary, The Imposter, on Netflix. An FBI agent recounts how a missing boy's mother, whom they had strong suspicions knew more about the boy's fate, passed her initial poly exam. The agent was dumbfounded. She had it administered again shortly after. Again, the mother passed. The FBI agent suspected the mother was under the influence of a sedative or opiate, as the mother had a long history of opiate abuse. The mother denied she was on anything. To test this theory, the agent waited a few hours to administer the polygraph a third and final time to ensure the drug effects would be worn off. Sure enough, this time, the mother failed miserably, but only on the questions specifically regarding her knowledge of her son's disappearance and fate. She passed the standard control questions. So, yeah, interesting points there. And other people, again, point to the way he walked away from the parked car. Cool as a cucumber. And again, if he was just hired to move the car, that's also another possibility. Another good post here. Is there anything to support that Chino took and passed a polygraph? So, or is it just the word of Wright the detective? Again, this is, I mean, do we trust law enforcement in this case? Again, not necessarily that there's a conspiracy or cover-up, but incompetence seems to be a very real possibility. Another poster posted this, I want to know what that first tip was about. Why they thought this guy was involved right off the bat. Easy to say now with what we know, since they apparently hadn't shown the surveillance footage yet at the time. So somebody called in the tip that Chino was involved before the surveillance footage was released. Another solid post here. I wonder, this head of maintenance guy named Ben, was he given a polygraph test? I think it's telling that both Chino and him were working on Jennifer's condo before she went on vacation. Being the head of maintenance, is it possible he could have had a master key card to Jennifer's apartment? A response here, hands down, have always felt as though this is who did it, and Chino followed Boss Ben's orders to drop the car. If Chino is living at the complex illegally, possibly undocumented, we don't have any of this information. I mean, he'd probably do whatever Ben said, right? Regardless of whether he had any knowledge of a crime. Someone posted that Chino was around 35 at the time of Jennifer's appearance. It's kind of weird. I mean, he definitely looks incredibly young. Another poster posted this. There's an old Law and Order episode with a lady being killed in her flat because she complains about maintenance work being done. She is killed by the head of a maintenance team, and one of the guys working for him helps cover it up because he's afraid of being deported. I mean, that's pretty eerie if that's what happened here. Again, this is Mindshock, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. I am not alleging anything is true or untrue. Let's go over this article from CBSNews.com, July 10th, 2021, The Disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. More than 15 years after Jennifer Kesse vanished, her parents, Drew and Joyce Kesse, are leading the investigation into their daughter's case. January 2006, 24-year-old Jennifer Kesse had everything going for her. She had just moved into a condo in Orlando, Florida, and she purchased on her own. She was also recently promoted at her job, where she worked as a project manager for a timeshare company. Jennifer's mother, Joyce Kesse, said she was just really happy. Long-distance love. Jennifer Kesse was a year into her long-distance relationship with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. She was in love, her mother Joyce said, although Rob lived about 3 hours away in Fort Lauderdale. The two of them would see each other every weekend. Weekend getaway. 1 week before Jennifer Kesse disappeared, she took a weekend trip to St. Croix with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. My best friend said to me after the trip, "Oh, you're in love, and you just don't want to admit it," Allen said. A happy return home. On Monday, January 23rd, 2006, after she returned home from a trip, Jennifer Kesse called her mom that morning on her way to work. Jen shared every detail about the trip. Joyce Kesse said she was on a cloud. Later that afternoon, Jennifer also called her brother and her father. Jennifer's final phone call. Monday evening, January 23rd, 2006, at around 10 p.m., Jennifer Kesse spoke to Rob Allen on the phone, but the call did not go well. We had a disagreement, Allen said. The long distance was taking a toll on their relationship. That was the last time he would ever speak to Jennifer again. Vanished without a trace. On Tuesday, January 24th, 2006, Jennifer Kesse's parents received a call that Jennifer didn't show up for work. They were immediately worried. Her cell phone that she had had since she was 16 years old went to voicemail for the first time. That is how we knew something horrendous had happened, Joyce Kesse said. Within minutes, the Kesses and their son Logan were on the road and headed to Jennifer's condo in Orlando, Florida. Everything looked normal. When the Kesses, who lived 2 hours away, arrived at Jennifer's condo, nothing seemed to be out of place. In fact, they said it looked like she had just been there. There was makeup all over the counter. The t-shirt that she had worn to bed was on the floor. The shower was wet in the corners, Joyce Kesse said. Her parents did notice, however, that Jennifer's phone, keys, and purse were missing. Media blitz. By sundown, many of Jennifer Kesse's family and friends gathered at her condo and started to search for her. They stood on street corners while they held up missing signs and handed out flyers with Jennifer's photo. Later that night, when there was still no sign of her, police officially declared Jennifer missing. A crucial discovery. 2 days after Jennifer Kesse went missing, her black Chevy Malibu was found in another condo complex parking lot approximately 1 mile away from where she lived. You have that initial hope like we found the car, it's only going to be a matter of time before we find Jennifer, said Jennifer's boyfriend Rob Allen. But when detectives opened the trunk of the car, Jennifer wasn't there. Nothing had been stolen from the car, and there was no evidence of a struggle. A break in the case. When detectives reviewed surveillance video from the complex where Jennifer Kesse's car was discovered, they saw a person parking her car. At around noon on the day Jennifer went missing, the person drove into the parking lot, sat in the car for about 30 seconds, and then walked away. But when police tried to identify the phantom figure, they hit a roadblock. The surveillance video took a photo every 3 seconds, and each time the person's face was obstructed by a fence post. A possible lead. Jennifer Kesse's parents refused to give up. They immediately moved into Jennifer's condo to be close to the investigation. The Kesses told police that Jennifer had complained to them about the workers at the building who occasionally made her feel uncomfortable. In fact, some of them had done work in her condo 1 week before she disappeared. A theory of what happened. 6 months after Jennifer Kesse disappeared, Detective Joel Wright became the lead investigator and developed a theory of what happened to her on January 24th, 2006. I believe Jennifer got ready for work. She showered, she got dressed, went outside of her condo, locked the door on the way out, and made it as far as her car. After that, I believe she was abducted, he said. I mean, isn't it, see, again, just going back, I mean, that's kind of bold of someone to abduct her. I mean, this isn't the middle of the night. I mean, there's people around. I mean, someone actually saw the vehicle swerving, allegedly. I mean, it's kind of rough. It's rough. 2 years gone. On the 2-year anniversary of Jennifer Kesse's disappearance, her family and friends gathered on a street corner and held up signs, just as they had done the day Jennifer went missing. We're a broken family, her father, Drew Kesse, said. She needs to come home to her family. A fresh look. Almost 3 years after Jennifer Kesse's disappearance, Detective Wright decided to take a fresh look at the case and interviewed people on audio tape. One of the people he spoke to was a former housekeeper at Jennifer's condo complex. When he showed the woman the security camera photo of the unidentified person, she told him it resembled a man she knew from the complex, known as Chino, because of his hair, clothing, and the way he walked. This was the first time Wright had ever heard of Chino. A new lead. Detective Wright learned that Chino used to live in another building at Jennifer Kesse's condo complex and was a former maintenance worker there. Chino was one of the workers who did some repairs in Jennifer's condo 1 week before she disappeared. Detective Wright also found an anonymous crime line tip that was reported during the first week of the investigation that suggested Chino might have been involved in Jennifer's disappearance. So, I mean, I brought up the possibility earlier that this could have been the true perpetrator trying to throw a red herring. It also could have been possibly a neighbor in the complex or someone nearby who suspected Chino but didn't have any real evidence. They might have just thought Chino was a scumbag. But again, we don't have those exact details on why they reported him. The interview. When Detective Wright found Chino, he was serving time for a statutory rape charge. On March 18, 2009, Wright interviewed Chino in prison and asked him about the time he worked in Jennifer's condo. Chino said Jennifer let him inside her condo. Everything was normal, Chino also told him. I don't have any idea what happened to her, he said. That day, Chino took a polygraph test and he passed. Frustrations mounting. In 2010, Detective Wright was reassigned. And as more time went by, the Kesses grew frustrated with the Orlando Police Department's investigation. Or lack thereof. 10 years gone. In 2016, after 10 years had passed since Jennifer disappeared, she was declared dead by the state of Florida. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, Drew Kesse said, taking matters into their own hands. December 2018, the Kesses sued the Orlando Police Department for a copy of Jennifer's case files. After months of legal wrangling, in March 2019, they all reached a settlement. The OPD handed over more than 16,000 pages of documents and 67 hours of video and audio tape to the Kesses. Under the agreement, the Orlando Police Department would no longer lead the investigation. And many are clamoring for the same thing to occur in the Maura Murray case. A new set of eyes. Michael Toretta is a private investigator who works for the Kesses. He says he learned some 10 months after Jennifer disappeared, a person was seen dumping a rolled up piece of carpet into a lake not far from where Jennifer lived. This tip was especially interesting to him because on the day Jennifer went missing, there were workers laying down carpet in the apartment across the hall from Jennifer's condo. Whoa, that's a major mind shock. We mentioned this lake search before and this tip, but I don't recall this detail. The workers were laying down carpet right across the hall from Jennifer's condo? That makes it a lot more damning. Toretta says he knew he had to get this tip checked out. Dive team investigate. November 2019, local police came out with a dive team to search the lake where an eyewitness said the piece of carpet was dumped. The team spent 2 days searching, but they did not find anything. This is something that is haunting me, private investigator Michael Toretta said. Until we can find that carpet and see what's in it, we need to follow up on that particular lead. Okay, So this was a dive team, but it doesn't say what other technology was used. Because, I mean, and this was 2019. I mean, obviously there's a certain amount of technology that's available in 2019, but a lot of it's highly expensive. Now in 2022, I mean, again, we have Moore's Law. Technology gets cheaper to use as time goes by. So what can they use? Can they use some type of sonar, infrared related technologies to just cut through the visibility in the water, the visibility issues in the water? Or can they just get way more divers out there? Because it's kind of weird. So either this person made up the tip, or it's a real tip and someone did dump carpet in there. Now, how often do people dump carpet in a lake? So it says an eyewitness said a piece of carpet was dumped. Like, how big? Did it look like a rolled up body? Which is what... Like, why would somebody dump a carpet in a freaking lake? You could take it to a landfill, the dump, wherever. Like, how often? Can we get a survey going? How often have people been seen dumping carpets or rolled up carpets in lakes? And why were they not able to find that piece of carpet? Because even if this has nothing to do with Jennifer Kesse, if it's maybe they dumped another person's body, I mean, who knows? Or there's no body at all, they just dumped a piece of carpet for some reason. But why are they not able to find the carpet? I mean, humans have reached a certain level of technological advancement. If there is carpet in that lake, why can't they find it? Also, I bring up satellite technology all the time. Now, obviously, back in 2006, satellite surveillance coverage might have been a little bit more limited. But, yeah, I mean, it should still have been at a certain point. I mean, again, I've gone over this in previous episodes. Satellites, I mean, there were satellites 50s, 60s, 70s, but the more advanced programs, I mean, 80s, 90s, I mean, they were going. By the 2000s, I mean, they were going. I am sure there's some kind of satellite surveillance footage of the lake. Was it during the daytime or at nighttime when it was dumped? It doesn't state here. If it was during the daytime, they might have the person's vehicle that's dumping it. Even still, at the apartment complex, they might have captured some comings and goings. Developing a new theory. Michael Toretta has a new theory as to what he thinks might have happened to Jennifer Kesse on the day she vanished. Based on interviews with people who lived at the condo complex, he believes that up to 10 construction workers were living in an empty apartment just across from Jennifer's. He said it could have been one or more of these workers who abducted her. Okay. So major mind shock here, because again, I don't believe we went over this detail. Obviously, we went over that construction workers lived in the building, etc., etc. They're right across from Jennifer. So the knock on the door the previous night, was that one of the construction workers and did this whole abduction scenario? Or was one of the construction workers, did they make a pass at her, she rejected, things got out of hand? And maybe the construction worker just left, and that's it. Then he got angry, and later at night he came back again, and this time things really got out of hand. I mean, I don't know, but again, if they'd been living there for quite some time, like what happened to kind of cause this situation randomly? Because apparently they'd been living there for X amount of time, and it was just some weird comments that made her uncomfortable. Like, what would cause this escalation to murder? Or possibly some kind of accident that led to death. Gone but not forgotten, the Kesses have dedicated more than 15 years of their lives to finding the truth about what happened to their daughter on the morning of January 24th, 2006. The hole in our heart is forever until we have an answer, Joyce Kesse said. And now with the files in their possession, they are more determined than ever to keep their daughter's story alive. So I don't know if I went over this before, but apparently there were other abductions and kidnappings in the area. Although, I mean, years later, I mean, 2020 here, woman kidnapped from Orlando apartment complex parking garage, November 24th, 2020, WESH.com. A woman is kidnapped from her Orlando apartment complex parking garage and then driven hours away by her kidnapper before she escaped. According to an arrest report, Michael Lucas was charged kidnapping, sexual battery, carjacking, and false imprisonment. Police said the victim was grabbing things out of the back seat of a Mercedes-Benz in the parking lot of the Aqua at Millennia Apartments at about 7 p.m. Sunday night, when a man grabbed her from behind and told her he'd shoot her if she yelled. "If you scream, I have a gun and I will shoot you," the man yelled, according to the arrest report. According to the report, the woman said she was forced into her own car by the man. He took off driving while she was ordered to keep her head between her legs and sit in the passenger seat. The victim told police she eventually figured out they were near Sarasota based off a cell phone conversation the man had in the car. In Sarasota, the woman said that the man stopped at a business where she was able to partially see a sign that said "Dreads," the report said. After stopping at the business, the woman said she was driven to an apartment and sexually battered. She told police she overheard another cell phone conversation in which the person on the other end of the phone was calling her kidnapper by the name Mike. While they were in Sarasota, the man then ordered the woman to get into the driver's seat and take them both back to Orlando. As they were approaching Orlando, the victim said her kidnapper had fallen asleep in the passenger seat of the car. She said she ran red lights because she feared that stopping would wake him up. She didn't stop until she got to the 7-Eleven at International Drive and Destination Parkway. She ran into the store, hid behind the counter, and called 911 as she told the store employee to lock the doors. The store employee said the kidnapper started banging on the doors while holding up the victim's purse, but eventually ran off. Wait, he thought she would open up to get her purse? What? Moments later, the Orange County Sheriff's Office was called to investigate a report of a suspicious person at Lockheed Martin. The man deputies found was Michael Lucas, who investigators said matched the description of the kidnapper. Investigators said Lucas was on probation in Sarasota, and his probation officer told investigators that he was not supposed to leave the county. So, again, this guy just seems like a weirdo and not very smart, I don't know how anybody can connect this to the Kesse case, but the point is, there seem to be other cases like this, unfortunately. It's just really, really bizarre. And then Florida, of course, known for human trafficking. There's a lot of human trafficking that goes on in Florida. Alright, so here's another post from the Jennifer Kesse subreddit with some more information that might be relatively damning against Chino. So this is by Marky Bug, 2 years ago, Lake Scenario. If I have this correct, Chino falsely stated that when he was working in Jen's apartment, she told him to lock up. Drew was on the phone with Jen as she supervised them, and she did not say this. On the day she went missing, a man driving a pickup truck was witnessed dropping what appeared to be a 6 to 8 foot rolled up carpet. Yeah, that's big. So is this during the day? We still don't know if it's during the daytime. So on the day she went missing, supposedly this was 10 days after, according to the other site. But either way, the questions are, did Chino drive a pickup? Did he stay in the apartments or was living off-site but nearby? I think, especially as there are no other leads, that need to do two things: drain the lake and search forensically. Re-interview Chino, either offer him immunity and maybe witness protection if he knows what happened but wasn't directly involved, or assume he's the POI and interview from that perspective. Few posts by users since deleted. It's important to remember that Chino was an employee of the Mosaic Condo Association, one of 2 full-time maintenance workers. By all accounts, he was very friendly and had a good rapport with the inhabitants. He was not one of the contractors who were constantly in and out. These are the gentlemen whose work Jen wanted to witness in person. In my opinion, it's entirely possible that Jen would possibly let Chino in her condo alone and trust him to lock up after. Chino did not drive a pickup. He drove a suburban-type utility vehicle. Chino lived in the Mosaic complex both before Jen's disappearance and for almost a year after. Not only did Chino pass a lie detector test, publicly agree to work closely with the Kesse family and its investigators, but that lake was also searched extensively. Yeah, someone posted this. Chino's personal vehicle was a large red SUV, but there was also a white or light-colored pickup truck that he and Ben used for maintenance work. He and his girlfriend lived at Mosaic on the 3rd floor of a building on the east side of the complex. So are they talking about Chino and his girlfriend or Ben and his girlfriend? It seems like they're talking about Chino here. Huh. Interesting information there. The other thing that's kind of damning, if it was one of the workers, because the Bloodhound, there was a dog track from Jennifer Kesse's car back to the condo. It was actually a bloodhound named Bo. Bo tracked the scent in the driver's seat directly to the rear stairwell of Jennifer's apartment near a pond before losing the trace. So why would the driver of the vehicle, if this dog track is accurate, the driver of the vehicle who parked Kesse's car walked back to her apartment or that back area? I mean, if it wasn't a worker, it could still be somebody going back to maybe clean up and remove their own traces, possibly. But what's also interesting, someone dug this up on the Jennifer Kesse subreddit 2 years ago. A picture of Chino and a suspect in a sexual assault in 2005. This is a composite sketch of a rapist near Curry Ford Road, roughly 15 minutes away from Kesse's apartment. So how many other crimes, if this is the guy, how many other crimes did he commit, but he's also supposedly not a suspect or no longer a suspect in the Kesse case? What's going on here? Because this guy seems to have a history of violence against women, and the other charge was against a minor as well. So, this is not a good guy if he's guilty of these crimes. There's so much weird. Some people are stating that the carpet wasn't dumped until November 2006. And Chino supposedly moved in November 2006. So if that's true, how much later was the carpet dumped? Why is there so much? Why can we not find out when exactly the carpet was dumped? If it's true that he moved right after the dumping of the carpet, that's kind of crazy. Okay, some more information on Chino. This is from the House of Dreams podcast, or House of Broken Dreams podcast. Housekeeper from the Mosaic watched the POI video with the police, said that's Chino. Police then realized that another anonymous lead on Chino that was initially overlooked. Another woman who lived at the Mosaic was interviewed on the House of Broken Dreams podcast House of Dreams podcast, and said it looked like Chino to her too. He was a maintenance man at the Mosaic at the time of Jen's disappearance. The woman on the podcast described him as creepy, knocking on the doors of single women at the Mosaic late at night to see how they were doing, to chat, etc. He would also be seen roaming the property in the middle of the night, i.e. 4 a.m., on a regular basis. He was in Jen's apartment painting approximately 1 week before she disappeared. He maintains his innocence and was interviewed on the recent 48 Hours episode, also passed the polygraph. Okay, alright. The coincidence stack is getting high. So another woman at the complex is stating here that he routinely walked around and knocked on single women's doors. So was that really him knocking on the door when Jen was on the phone the night before? He also supposedly was known to roam the property at 4 a.m. on a regular basis. And now we have this additional sketch of a rape suspect who just happens to look exactly like him. Wow. This is a lot. Now, on these recent episodes, they have him in the 48 Hours episode, and okay, so apparently they know where he is now, and he continues to maintain his innocence. Again, no news on the Ben guy, the maintenance manager guy. So, someone else posted this. Jennifer Kesse's father said he does not consider Chino to be a POI, but believes he might have some information that could help. What does that mean? What the heck does that mean? That he knows the other workers at the complex, if the workers are responsible, and he could provide a list, maybe, even of the undocumented ones, if there were undocumented ones? So what does everybody make of Chino and Ben and their possible involvement or possible knowledge? And is Ben still missing? So Chino they've located. He still maintains his innocence. He's still doing interviews. But what about Ben? And is there a connection with Ben? There's also a pickup truck that they both supposedly used. I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial possible coincidences here. Obviously, nothing concrete in any way. But it is quite bizarre. I think a brain fingerprint scan is in order, and they really do need to track down Ben, give him a brain fingerprint scan. I think if they really brain fingerprint scanned all these individuals, this case could get solved. This case could definitely get solved. Plenty more to come. I mean, there's a lot of rabbit holes in this case. It's a deep one. We do have a number of episodes coming in this case to unravel this mystery that is the Jennifer Kesse case and hopefully get some kind of conclusion, closure. And this is just a lot of these missing persons cases, they just go on for far too long when supposedly, if proper investigation was done, the case should have been closed quite close to the time that it occurred. Hope you guys found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Get access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.